Good morning, everyone. BritSimon here. I want to talk to you about the proposed travel ban that is being widely reported by various news outlets. We knew the travel ban was likely to be implemented, and it has not been implemented yet. But there is very specific, probably quite reliable information about what will be the final ban being reported. Okay, so let me just be really clear on some questions, because it's important to sort of not sort of freak out at times like this. But I want to make clear, I'm going to be talking to you about the travel ban that is being reported by news outlets, but is not yet a travel ban. Okay. This is not law yet. This is not in place yet. How much clearer can I make that? It's not, it's not there yet. Timing of it, we don't know. We don't know for sure this is going to be implemented. We don't know when it will be implemented. And we won't have the exact terms of the travel ban until it is implemented. Okay, so we need to be a bit cautious, but I did want to just show you the information that I've got on it, so that you were somewhat prepared. Okay, so let's just talk about one of these news articles. I've chosen to use the New York Times article, but there are others. And people that I know of in the immigration community that I trust are, reasonably confident that this is pretty likely to be the ban that's implemented, right? The big shock, I think, for most people, the first thing is the list could include as many as 43 countries. That's quite a big sticker shock. And so there is this draft list of countries that could be banned, and they're organized into three groups: red, orange, and yellow. Okay. For the countries on the red list, all travel would be banned. That means that anybody who's holding on to a non-immigrant or immigrant visa would be banned from entry into the USA. Now, I'll come back to that in a moment. Okay, so but that's the red list. Orange would be most travel would be banned, and so that list would also impact immigrant visa holders, as I understand it at this point. But again, we don't have the exact ban, so that's speculation on my part, and also in this article at the moment, that it would affect people with immigrant visas. Okay, and then the yellow list of countries is a list of countries that are being given 60 days to correct certain issues that they have. Now, the issues could be a failure to share information with the USA, or doing something, to make fraud easy within their country, either by poor documentation or, perhaps some of these countries sell citizenship, which means that somebody in a banned list could buy citizenship and perhaps get in that way. And so these countries have got 60 days to address concerns. The threat to those 60 countries is that if they don't address those concerns within 60 days, they would then move on to the orange or the red list. Okay, so there could be some movement there. Now, the list of countries is not 100% finalized. These are the countries being suggested. And this particular graphic has come out from several sources. I think it's probably from the original source documentation, but we don't know that for sure. Okay, there are some surprises on there, I have to say. On the red list, completely banned, Venezuela and Cuba. Now, Trump was elected. Would you believe a lot of Cubans, particularly in South Florida and Florida in general, voted for Trump. It's this very odd thing where Trump is, would spit on that country if he could, and he's sort of anti-Cubans, and they know that. But once Cubans come into the country, they become a supporter of someone who is against their country. And I get it. There's political reasons why, but it's still going to be a blow to that community of Trump-loving Cubans in Florida. It's going to be a blow to them when they see their country listed on the travel ban list, because it makes life even harder for them. With seeing relatives, getting relatives to come in, and so on. Based on that, and based on the pressure that's going to be placed on Trump, I would not be surprised to see Cuba in particular, and perhaps Venezuela, being removed from this list prior to the ban being implemented, or perhaps move to the orange list of countries. I don't know. Okay, so this list, although it's there, it could easily be changed between now and whenever the ban is implemented. So we'll have to see what that looks like. Okay, so let's just answer a few questions that I know I'm going to be getting while I leave this this list on the screen here. Let me just answer some of the questions that I think you'll have. Is the ban in place now? No, it's not in place. Is the ban certain to be implemented as is described in this article with no changes? No, that's not certain either. There could easily be changes. Are immigrant visas banned? Yes. My understanding from this article is that immigrant visas, that's the point at which you've attended your interview, you've got the visa in your passport, but you haven't yet entered the USA. Those people are likely to be banned, right? It's likely to cover those people, and I say that based on this article and also how the ban was operated previously. What if I'm already a lawful permanent resident or green card holder, right? What if you've already been into the country? Are you likely to be impacted or not? Although this article says it could impact them, I would say not. I think that will be a step too far. And in previous bans, that was actually one of the things that was attacked and removed. So if you're a green card holder, you've already activated your green card status, or an LPR. An LPR, lawful permanent resident, is a green card holder, whether or not that person holds green card or not, right? LPR is actually the status that we're talking about here. If you're an LPR, you've already activated your green card, then I think you'll probably be exempted from this travel ban. You'll be allowed to re-enter the USA. But be careful. Watch my other video about not losing your green card status, because there is clearly, a move within the government to do whatever the hell it likes, even against green card holders right now. There's a case going on right now that is demonstration of that. What will happen to the yellow list of countries? Well, again, they've got 60 days to fix some problems. We don't know exactly what the problems are with each of those countries, but they've got 60 days. And after 60 days, they'll either be removed from the list entirely, or perhaps left on the list and given more time to fix the problems, or perhaps moved onto the orange or red lists. Right? We don't know for sure. Will interviews in those countries stop completely? No, they won't. Here's the weird thing about these travel bans. During the legal efforts that were made before in DV 2020 and 2021, it was established that the president has the right to ban entry, but he does not have the right to stop visas being issued to people that are banned. And you might say, well, what's the difference between that, and why would someone do that? Why would they go for their interview? Well, what someone is perhaps hoping for, if they decide they want to take their interview, they're hoping that the ban will be removed relatively soon, right? And they're hoping that they can somehow extend their visa and be allowed to enter at some later point. They would be hoping for lawsuits and that sort of thing. That certainly worked out for some people, not everybody, but for some people in the lawsuits previously that we had in DV 2020 and 21. Some people were banned at the time that they were interviewed. Thousands of people were in this position. But then the ban was removed, struck down by courts, etc., or removed by the government by the time they had to enter. And they were then allowed to enter. That was a fairly unusual position, though. It was a very active position. And when Trump implemented what I call the Muslim bans or the travel bans previously, the first two versions were revoked pretty quickly, either by being blocked by courts or by the Trump administration just revoking that ban. But the third version managed to stay in place. The third version of the ban was written in a way that I'm sure this ban will be written, that talks about security, etc. It's clearly anti-immigrant. It's anti-Muslim, anti-brown people. If you look at these lists, don't see many European countries on there, right? Yeah, Russia perhaps, but that's understandable. But we're not talking about Europe here, right? We're clearly, apparently we're not so worried about terrorists with white skin. So clearly there is there is an attitude behind this ban, but the ban has been dressed up previously as a security ban, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and that ban was allowed to stay in place. Okay, so they will use that learning, they will use that wording to make sure that the ban doesn't get taken down by legal action. So some aspects of the ban could be new and could be attacked. And we may see, for example, if for example he included lawful permanent residents in there, I'm pretty sure that would cause a lawsuit, and the lawsuit would probably win for that. And so there would be an exception made for LPRs. That's the sort of thing that could happen. You could have a lawsuit against some aspect of the travel ban, and that aspect could be removed. That lawsuit could be successful or unsuccessful, but if successful, that piece of it could be removed. That's possible. Okay. So will interviews in the country stop? They don't have to stop. And so it will be up to each individual to decide whether they have, the financial ability, the time, the guts, frankly, the courage to go to their interviews and try and get their immigrant visa, hoping that they will be able to use it, hoping that there will be a softening of the stance. It'll be up to every individual. At this point, even before the travel ban is implemented, of course, I can't give advice on that, and I probably won't give advice on that, even when we know more about the ban, if it's in place, right? Because it's going to be up to each individual to sort of assess that and decide what that means. And I have to say, if you're from some very, very poor country and you don't have a lot of money, and the amount of fees that you're going to spend on this process is, a very expensive thing, then obviously it wouldn't be good advice to you, in all honesty, to say go ahead and spend that money. You would probably be, more likely to say no. I don't think I'll even go for the interview. So the interview will be arranged for you, and you won't turn up for it. That's basically what will happen in that scenario. Because if we're talking about huge amounts of money relative to your situation, and maybe you've got to borrow and go into debt, and maybe you don't even have a good chance of that working out for you in the end, because you could be approved for a visa and then not allowed to enter, then clearly that's not good advice to tell you to do that. And you'll have to decide that for yourself. But but that's just something that's going to be for every single person to decide based on their circumstances. Okay. So for some people, they'll want to know, okay, well, if my country is not on this list, what does that mean? Does it mean I'm safe? Well, bear in mind, there are some countries here like Cameroon, Cape Verde, and so on, where those countries have to take some sort of action. If they don't do anything, they're going to be moving up to this orange and red list. There will be diplomatic negotiations going on behind the scenes where countries could, for example, make certain promises or commitments to fix their systems, and maybe that would keep them off of the orange or red list. That's certainly a possible. If your country is not on this list, or if you're in the yellow list, you may be wondering what other impacts this will have. For DV lottery, this will probably drive the visa bulletin numbers higher because some countries will be banned. So, for example, if the Sudanese or Somalians are banned, how many thousand people are left that haven't been interviewed yet that are from those countries, right? Those people would immediately have that tough decision to make whether they turn up for their interview or not. Okay, so we will probably start seeing more no-shows, less visas being issued, or people going into a 221G status or refused. We'll have to see how they handle that. It's going to be. It'll have to be seen. We'll have to see what really happens here. I can't predict it entirely. By the way, if you went for an interview and if you're on the red list or the orange list, and so you're banned at that time, and you went for an interview, they wouldn't actually refuse the case, right? They may put you on 221G. They may delay background checking, but ultimately, what they should do is issue the visa. If your case meets all the other requirements, but you happen to be banned, they should issue that visa, right? Because the ban is on entry, not on visa issuance. And so that, for people that choose to go to their interview and get the visa, they could do that. And that visa will be counted towards the 55,000. And therefore it will take visas from that number. So that's people's right. They can do that if they want to have the pretty looking visa in their passport but never be able to use it. That might be the case. It will be it'll be tough both directions, right? Can this be blocked by the courts? It's another question I'm going to be asked. As I mentioned before, the travel ban previously went all the way up to the Supreme Court being fought. And the final version, the third version of the travel ban, was allowed to stay in place. There were some modifications of it, but it was allowed to stay in place. So we can't rely on lawsuits to fix this problem. I'm sure there will be lawsuits, by various groups, not only for DV winners, but also for other groups. They're going to be fighting this. But it's pretty unlikely that they're going to be able to remove the total ban, bearing in mind that they'll probably write this ban the same way they wrote the other ban. And we've already been through that process, that we've established that, yes, the president has the right to do this. So that's all the questions that I have, that I think that you might want to know. So hopefully that's answered any question you may have. But let me just reiterate: the travel ban's not in place yet. Let me give some short-term advice, by the way. If you are, if you're someone who thinks you're about to get banned and you've got a visa, then obviously, please get your ass to America. Like, just do that. Just stop procrastinating. We've been saying this 4 months. Jesse Bless came on. He's one of the main lawyers in the immigration community. He came on and did a YouTube session with me, and he was saying back then, hurry up, don't waste time. Curtis Morrison's saying that same thing. Chuck Cook is saying that same thing. All the lawyers that I know and all the lawyers that you know that have any sort of knowledge of these sort of things have been saying, don't waste time. So if you're sitting there with your immigrant visa, then you should travel. If you're in a situation where perhaps the husband or wife is the principal applicant and has the immigrant visa, but the husband or but the spouse does not have the immigrant visa yet for whatever reason, then you may choose for at least one of you to enter the country, hoping that you can bring the spouse later. Okay, so you may want to do that and do it immediately. Okay, let me just say, when is this likely to be implemented, if at all? The report is due this week. This is the report. The list that I just showed you, the red, yellow, and orange, is the result of the report. This is essentially what's going to go in front of Trump this week, right? The law that would cover this will have been written already. Okay, sorry, I shouldn't say the law. The executive order. The executive order will have been written already. It will be in the report. Here's the proposed wording of the travel ban, and here's the countries we want to affect, and so on. That will probably already be available. So it would be very simple for Trump to just sign the executive order. Having said that, it's not a certainty that it will be implemented this week. It could be, it could be later. We just don't know. We'll have to sort of keep a lookout for that. Okay, so lots of speculation. Obviously, people are going to be very concerned about this with good reason. I hope something happens to make this better, but I suspect we're about to see another ban, and it's a great shame. Anyway, hope that was useful to you. Thanks for listening in. All right, bye everybody.